to observe it. Testimony has been given in this case by certain witnesses who are termed experts. Expert witnesses are witnesses who, because of their training and experience, possess knowledge in a particular field that is not common knowledge or known to the average citizen. The law permits expert witnesses to give their opinions based upon that training and experience. You are not required to accept the testimony of any witnesses, expert or otherwise. Testimony of an expert, like that of all witnesses, is to be given only such weight and credit as you think it's properly entitled to receive. In determining the credibility of a witness, you may consider, where applicable, evidence offered to attack or challenge the witness's credibility, and this may include evidence of a character for untruthfulness, bias toward a party, or felony criminal convictions. In determining the credibility of any witness whose credibility has been attacked or challenged, as I've described above, and any testimony given by him or her in court, you may consider, where it's applicable, evidence offered to support the credibility or believability of such a witness. The credibility of a witness may also be attacked by disproving the facts to which the witness testifies. Your assessment of a trial witness's credibility may be affected by comparing or contrasting that testimony to statements or testimony that the same witness gave before the trial started. It's for you to decide whether there's a reasonable explanation for any inconsistency in a witness's pretrial statement or testimony when compared to the same witness's trial testimony. As with all issues of witness credibility, you, the jury, must apply your common sense and reason to decide what testimony you believe or do not believe. In assessing the credibility of a witness, you may consider any possible motive in testifying if that is shown. In that regard, you are authorized to consider any possible pending prosecutions, negotiated pleas, grants of immunity or leniency, or similar matters. You alone shall decide the believability of all of the witnesses. The testimony of a single witness, if believed, is generally sufficient to establish a fact. Generally, there is no legal requirement of corroboration of a witness, provided you find the evidence to be sufficient. An exception to this rule is made where the witness is an accomplice. The testimony of an accomplice on its own is not sufficient to warrant a conviction. An accomplice's testimony must be supported by other evidence of some type, and that evidence must be such as would lead to the inference of the guilt of the accused, independent of the testimony of the accomplice. It's not required that supporting evidence be sufficient to warrant a conviction, or that the testimony of the accomplice be supported in every material particular. The supporting evidence must be more than that a crime was actually committed by someone. It must be sufficient to connect the accused with the criminal act, and must be more than sufficient to merely cast upon the accused a grave suspicion of guilt. Slight evidence from another source that connects the accused with the commission of the alleged crime tends to show participation in it may be sufficient supporting evidence of the testimony of an accomplice. In order to convict, that evidence, when considered with all of the other evidence, may be sufficient to satisfy beyond a reasonable doubt that the accused. The testimony of one accomplice may be supported by the testimony of another. Whether or not the testimony of one accomplice does in fact support the testimony of another accomplice is about for you. The sufficiency of supporting evidence of an accomplice is a matter solely for you to determine. Whether or not any witness in this case was an accomplice is also a question for you to determine from the evidence in this case. Any out-of-court statements made by one of the defendants on trial in this case after the alleged criminal act has ended may be considered only against the person who made the statement, and only if you find such statement was freely and voluntarily made. If you find that an out-of-court statement was made to the police freely and voluntarily by a defendant on trial in this case, then you are to consider the statement only against the particular defendant who made it. A defendant in a criminal case may take
this trial is brought to you by dumbass gun stuff with him. That gun was pissing me off.
Examined as any other witness. However, a defendant does not have to present any evidence nor testify. If a defendant chooses not to testify, you may not consider that in any way in making your decision. Sometimes evidence is admitted for a limited purpose or against some parties and not others, or for some counts and not others. I have previously instructed you as to how to consider particular evidence that was limited over the course of this trial. Such evidence may be considered by you only for the sole issue or purpose or against only the party or only for the counts for which that evidence is limited, and not for any other purpose or against any other defendant or for any other counts. You have received evidence of certain prior convictions of these defendants as well as certain other witnesses in this case. You may consider the conviction of Mr. Kendrick only against Mr. Kendrick and only as to count 1 and as to the required element of being a convicted felon in count 63. You may consider the convictions of Mr. Stillwell only against Mr. Stillwell and only as to count 1 and as to the required element of being a convicted felon in counts 52 and 64. You may consider the convictions of any witnesses only insofar as they may relate to attacking the credibility of that witness and not for any other purpose. Identity is a question of fact for you to determine. Your determination of identity is dependent upon the credibility of the witness or witnesses offered for this purpose. You should consider all of the factors previously charged to you regarding credibility of witnesses. In addition, some but not all of the factors you may consider in assessing the reliability of any identification are the opportunity of the witness to view the alleged perpetrator at the time of the alleged incident, the witness's degree of attention toward the alleged perpetrator at the time of the alleged incident, the possibility of mistaken identity, whether the witness's identification may have been influenced by factors other than the view that the witness claimed to have had, whether it does not identify that person as the alleged perpetrator, and the length of time between the crime and the out-of-court or any out-of-court identification. It's for you to say whether under the evidence of the
he got that stupid.
The witnesses and the facts and circumstances of the case sufficiently identify someone beyond reasonable doubt as the alleged perpetrating.
He got one of that stupid gun. I want it. I got.
It is not necessary that the defendant show that another person committed the alleged act. The burden of proof never shifts to the defense. Defendants are charged with crimes against the laws of this state. A crime occurs when a law is violated by a defendant's intentional action. Intent is an essential element of any crime and must be proved by the state beyond a reasonable doubt. Intent may be shown in many ways, provided that you, the jury, believe it existed from the facts proven before you. It may be inferred from the proven circumstances or by acts and conduct, or it may, in your discretion, be inferred when it is the natural and necessary consequence of the act. Whether or not you draw such an inference is a matter solely within your discretion. Criminal intent does not mean an intention to violate the law or to violate a criminal statute, but it simply means the intention to commit the act that is prohibited by a statute.
I know y'all gonna say guilty anyway.
It will not be presumed to have acted with criminal intent, but you may find such an intention or the absence of it upon a consideration.
They gotta be guilty on something.
Motive and other circumstances connected with the act for which the accused
We went through that gas and stuff. Oh, we got this stuff. Yeah. Hey, can you empty the water on that for me, please? That's it. How many mushrooms y'all want for that TV before y'all give me? guess he wasn't here. I ain't got time for that. I gotta eat my tray again. I'll get this. I'm gonna go look on me, okay? Oh, sweet. Thank you. The wrong one. What the heck? That was. Oh. Can't do it no more. That's good enough. Bonus. I don't know why I got this in my hand. Okay. Hey, what the heck, man? You breaking the wrong stuff. Alright, hold on. Oh, you can't done anyway. Thank you. So we can go stop beef. We can go look for beef. Damn, what the heck he shoot? Oh, that boy had a goal on. Oh. Okay, he hit me like 3 times. I'm like, what the heck?